first offer my humble obeisances to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, to all the previous acharyas, and to all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhascha, prasannavedevaccha,
Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
Today is the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev. There are ways in which Krishna comes regularly to the material world. Of course, he's always here anyway. As we were singing the Brahma Samhita yesterday, we could note that Brahma mentions that Krishna is within every atom. He's all pervasive. And so it's not that he has to come down, although we say avatar, which means literally one comes down. And the purpose is that people need something to talk about. And if they don't have Krishna to talk about, then as the demigods were praying to Lord Krishna right before he appeared, he said, Yeneyurvindaksha vamuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avashudha pudaya Ariya Krishna param padam tata atantyato nadrita yushmaran graya. That is that unless one can envision the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, and unless one can have a relationship with the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one will never become comfortable in this world and will always move on from whatever position we attain. And therefore, it's also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna knows this specifically, and he comes in his various forms just to attract us. And they're not ordinary forms. Krishna's body is not made of the lower material elements. His body is fully transcendental. And when he comes, he also performs Leela, which is his activities in complete freedom, as the Bhagavatam says at the outset. Krishna is abhigna and swarat. Abhigna means that he's fully conscious. That means Supreme is not a dead stone, nor is the Supreme something amorphous. He's a person. And he's the supremely conscious person. He can interact with everyone, does interact with everyone. Everyone has an intimate relationship with him, and so do all energies. In one sense, as Krishna says in the Gita, Ham sarvasya prabhavo, everything is me, everything comes from me. And when he comes to the world, he's not bound by karma and the laws of nature. He's not affected by the modalities because they emanate from him. He's in control of them. Prabhupada used to give the example that if the governor goes into a prison, of course nowadays you never know, but if the governor goes into a prison to inspect the prison to make sure everything's in order, then the prisoners are there, they're people, and the governor is there, he's a person. The prisoners are going to have to stay. And when the door closes, they have a sentence they have to serve out that was meted out by the government in a court of law. Whereas the governor can go home. He doesn't have to stay there. And so Krishna, when he comes to the material world, isn't bound by any of the laws of material nature. And his activities are called Leela. It's his sweet will to come to the world And he especially comes to the world to interact with his devotees. Because Krishna has nothing to do. He has no job to do. The bumper sticker that says, I owe, it's off to work I go. Because everyone has to go somewhere, and it's the law of the world. You have to work hard in order to maintain yourself here in this world. But Krishna doesn't have any such obligation, as he mentions also in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter. He's not bound to work, but he comes and he performs his activities. And there's a difference between his activities and everyone else's. Anandamayo Bhyasat. He acts out of joy. Everything he does is joyful because he's pure joy. And everything is to increase that joyfulness that he has, the interaction that he has with his devotees is the most desirable for Krishna. He says, Bhaktyaham ikriya grahya, that it's bhakti that he's primarily focused on in the loving exchanges with his devotees. So when he comes to the world, he interacts with the devotees, and there's a way in which, when he acts in this world, his activities are arukram. They're amazing steps he takes in every direction. Whatever he does is extraordinary. And when one can then remember those activities and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one can become liberated from the entanglement in this material world. Therefore, one of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita is where Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata Chakvadeham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjana. And that is that my birth, janma, my karma, my activities are divyam. They're transcendental. They're divine. They're not ordinary. It's not an ordinary birth. He's not forced to take birth. He appears as he wishes. And his activities are lila. They're divine play. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha means that if one can study these and also study the categories of energy, that there's a material energy, there's a spiritual energy, there's also the marginal energy. We are part of the marginal energy as individual souls, parts and parcels of Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Soul, Atmanam Akilatmanam. You can imagine how dear your soul is to you, because you can, by extension, think, my body's very dear to me, because I'm in it. Once you're not in it, you don't care. In fact, sometimes when people have an out-of-body experience, they'll look down and go, ew. I'm not going back in that thing. And the body's dear because the soul's there, so Shukadeva Goswami says, imagine how dear Krishna must be because he's the soul of our soul. If I give so much attention to my body because I think I am my body, this Atma means body, mind, and spirit, so the body is also known as Atma because I'm in it and it feels like this is me. It's not, incidentally. But we are the soul, and Krishna is the soul of our soul. So imagine, says Shukadeva Goswami, how dear Krishna is to every living entity. And every living entity is unique. And Krishna has a unique relationship with every living entity. And so the purpose of his appearing in the world is to revive that relationship with him. That's a forgotten thing, our relationship with Krishna. And it's the cause of fear. When I forget that Krishna is my protector and my maintainer, then I become fearful and I think I have to fend for myself. It's a very scary world, very dark world. In fact, it's the world of ignorance. Ignorance means ignorance. And if you've ever ignored somebody, you know just how dark that can be. Have you ever ignored somebody? Or been ignored by somebody? Then suddenly there's a pall of darkness falls upon your mind and your life. And that's what the material world is. It's a place of ignorance. Everyone's ignoring Krishna. So on divine days, and we have a lot of them, probably more than anybody. How many times we have to fast? Yeah, we pretty much eat as much as we can when we're not fasting, just to make up for it. And on these divine appearance days, we can remember the specific pastimes of the Lord in His multifarious incarnations. And one of the most famous of all incarnations is Nrsimhadev. Nre means human, and Singha means a lion. So he came in a very angry spirit, a warrior-like spirit, for Nrsimha. There are other reasons that he came in that form. So the reason he came was to protect his devotee Prahlad. And you'll find when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, this pastime is in the 7th canto. Practically the whole 7th canto is about this. Most of it, 80%. And most of it's about Prahlad. There's a short section about Nrsimhadev's appearance is fighting with Hiranyakashipu, but it's about the devotee Prahlad. So let's just talk about that. Because at the beginning of the pastime, we find that everything's going along well. And that's rare in this world. It only happens at intervals. And then you get a phone call or a text, and then your mood changes, because that's the way of the world. And the demigods, those who inhabit the higher planetary systems, a gated community where things are supposed to go well, and people live for trillions of years, actually, in Brahmaloka. Brahma lives for 311 trillion years. That's a lot. And it seems like it'll live forever, practically, when you have that much time, you have an unlimited expense account, and so forth, in the higher planetary systems. But one of the lessons of this story is even that gets disturbed. Because in the beginning, there's a report, however it came in, that climate was changing in the upper planetary systems. We know about climate change. That happened due to the determined austerities of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is an iconic figure in the Bhagavatam. And I'll just preface that by saying the Bhagavatam is for us. Bhagavatam knows us better than ChatGPT. Way better. Bhagavatam knows what we go through psychologically. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya malupashrita. There are certain things that psychological obstacles to being happy. So he says, Vita, give them up. Learn to give them up. And he also says, Bahavo Jnana Tapasa, don't worry, a lot of people have done it, so you could do it too. Krishna's so encouraging, right? And raga means intense attachment to the material world. Big mistake. In fact, I have a little continuous diary I'm writing of cliches and idioms. I like to take a cliche and then bring it back to life. And one of them is barking up the wrong tree. And I was in the park one day, Washington Park near my house, and as I was walking amongst the trees, I saw a terrier who was fired up to chase the squirrels, and the owner was way behind. And he was hot after a squirrel, who knows how to zig and zag. And there were 2 trees. So the squirrel went up one tree and then jumped to the other side, and the terrier came to the wrong tree and was barking up that tree furiously. And I was watching, amused, and I thought, barking up the wrong tree, that's where it comes from. And I thought, what a stupid thing to do. And this is one of the points that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. He says, don't try to find happiness in a temporary world. Because when there's a beginning and an end, we as souls don't like it. We don't want it to stop. We want it to go on and on and on and increase. And there's a lot of promise for that, false promise in the material world. Huey Lewis, maybe before your time, but he wrote a song back in the 80s. It's called, I Want a New Drug. And he goes on by explaining that he wants a drug that has all the good effects, but none of the side effects. And that's also something we can remember when pharmaceutical companies do an advertisement. The first 10 seconds, it shows somebody happily driving a car with the window open and her disease is cured. But then for the next minute and a half, required by law, you have to mention all the side effects, which include death, by the way. Always encouraging. Yeah, I'll take one of those. And so this raga, this barking up the wrong tree of the material world, because there's nothing here for us. In fact, there's one of my favorite verses, a short one from the Vedas, says, Asango hyayam purushaha, which means, little jiva, nothing to see here for you. You have nothing to do with this material world, wrong place. And in Mayapur, if you've been to the Yoga Pit and the Samadhi of and Bhajan Kutir Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there's a little building, I don't know what it is because I've never been in it, there's a sign outside that I always stop and marvel at that says, nothing to see here. And that's the material world. Yeah, nothing to see here, you got nothing to do, but this is the raga, the unnecessary attachment to something that will never be good for us. And bhaya, which means fear of a personal existence. I become discouraged because of the temporality of my relationships in this world, and it traces back to personhood, and personhood starts to look bleak and not promising, so people then try to eliminate personhood, and they become afraid of a personal relationship with God. In fact, it becomes anathema. In fact, when you talk about God, if you bring up personhood and say God's a person, people are a little taken aback, or more than that. It seems to many people to be simplistic, impossible, out of the question. And then finally there's krodha, which means anger. And krodha means that because there's so many competing ideas and not a clear idea about how to explain God and our relationship with Him, that people become cynical. We live in a cynical age. There's been a progression. Science and religion used to cooperate a lot more. And then there was a divorce. And then they hate each other. And they're at odds. And then people just give up and say, well, there's no answer, nobody knows anything. And you get this deconstructionism where anyone's opinion is as good as another and there's no authority and so forth. And that leaves one unmoored here in this material world. So beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam's description of the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, we have Hiranyakashipu, who is the one who's fully invested in the material world. So you take all of the desires that anyone might ever want to have in the material world, you put it in one person. And then let's see how he does. And this is one of the ways in which the Bhagavatam shows us, okay, anything you ever tried for in this world to try to be happy, it's all been done before. It's all been done and more. And so you have Hiranyakashipu, and he performs these severe austerities. Everyone has to do some austerity in this material world to get anything, but Hiranyakashipu raised his hands in the air, stood on his toes, and he kept them up there for thousands and then tens of thousands of years, until by his special kind of austerity he developed this intense fire that was coming out of his head. In fact, he didn't have much of a head, because neglecting his body for the sake of austerity, and his intention was to live forever and get all powerful. He wanted all the power, and he wanted to live forever to enjoy it. So what happened was, his body got consumed. Over time, if you don't take care of your body, it starts to fall apart, and then other insects, animals came. All he had was, he was sustaining himself, all he was is a frame of bones, and then some life air, and his soul was somehow... Inconceivable austerity. No one's ever done anything that intense before. And that created this intense heat that disturbed the universe. And there was climate change, one of the first big climate changes in the universe. And the demigods in their gated communities were thinking, what's going on? This is disturbing. There was a disharmonious vibration in the universe, and the heat was coming. So Brahma, who's the leader of the, what is that? The homeowners?
HOA.
Yeah, he was the leader of the HOA. Look, I'll take care of this. So he went down there to see what this person wanted, and to get him to stop. He had all these demands, did Hiranyakashipu. So he started getting legalistic, because he thought, I'm going to create a list and get these benedictions from Brahma, and once the list is filled, then I'll be immortal. So he asks not to be killed or not to die in the day or night. That seems to cover it, right? Not by, I don't want to be killed on the land or in the sea. Anything else? Or in the air?
By weapons or by bare hands?
No weapon could kill me.
Or bare hands?
Or bare hands.
No animal or human being?
No animal, human being. So,
No inside, no outside.
no inside, no outside.
No day, no night.
No day, no night.
Some insurance policies.
Now that comes next. Because when I was writing this little blog, I cataloged every type of insurance that I could find everywhere. I didn't have ChatGPT at the time, but I came up with about 40. And I was thinking how this is the piecemeal way of trying to keep oneself whole in this world, is the method of Hiranyakashipu, where he wanted to try to put together a way that he could protect himself independent of Krishna and try to enjoy the world. So Brahma gave him all the benedictions that he asked for, and as we know later on, that Lord Nrsingadev, when he killed Hiranyakashipu, he upheld all of them. And you always forget something. He forgot a lot of things, because, as an example, he wasn't killed at day or night. There's dusk. And literally, that's not day or night. And he wasn't killed by any weapon. He was killed by the nails of Lord Nrsingadev. And it wasn't inside or outside, because Lord Nrsingadev made sure he killed Hiranyakashipu right in the threshold between inside and outside, and etc., etc. He bypassed all of the benedictions of Brahma and killed Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu had given his best to try to enjoy the material world, but before, or as he was asking for the benedictions from Brahma, incredulous at how greedy this person was, just warned him. He said, don't try to take a benediction that you cannot enjoy peacefully. And this comes to one of the points of the story, is that there's a contrast with Prahlad Maharaj. When at the end of the death of Hiranyakashipu, who was the father of Prahlad Maharaj, and who tortured Prahlad Maharaj, who was his saintly son. And the only reason he did it was because he didn't appreciate that Prahlad didn't appreciate his father's all-powerful position, and that Prahlad was receiving power from somewhere else, and he became envious. Mm-hmm. That's another symptom of trying to control the world and get power. We'll inevitably find somebody more powerful. And he found it in his own son, who was getting his power from Krishna, from pure devotional service. So Brahma said to him, don't try to enjoy something that you can't enjoy. Don't ask for something that you can't enjoy peacefully. And we find that when Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, then he told Prahlad, I want to give you a benediction. You take something. And what was Prahlad's answer? He said, oh, no, thank you. He said, I'm not a merchant. I don't pray to you and I don't serve you because I want something in return. I don't want anything. I'm not a vanik. Vanik means a merchant, somebody who's a trader, who I give you this, you give me back something. And then Lord Nrsimhadev said, no, please take something. I'm Bhagavan. I give benedictions. You please take. He said, well then, liberate my father, the same person who just tortured him. And he said, that's already done. That's part of it. And then he said, take something else. And he said, and this is an important prayer, he said, if you give me any benediction, give me the benediction that within the core of my heart, I have no material desires. Only desire to serve you. And this is why Prahlad Maharaj, in the progression of the Bhagavatam, where we find some who have the proclivity towards getting something in return from the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj, at the 7th canto, we find the gold standard that I'm service for service. I only want to serve. I don't want anything in return. And this is the beginning of real life, of our life that is not only sustainable, but is joyful. When we realize that we don't have any material desires in our heart, and we only want to serve Krishna, it's called sincerity. Or even if we do have material desires, we can still identify the sincerity and say, I only want you, Krishna, and I only want to serve you. I don't want anything in return. If we can identify that, then we'll feel empowered by that element that we have, that is the full recognition that I can use my free will to serve Krishna and not to unnecessarily become attached to the material world and ask for things that I don't need. So this story coagulates those two concepts, that I want everything and I don't want anything except for Krishna. And you can compare and contrast them. And sometimes people think, well, if I do that, if I surrender to God, I won't have any power. People just I'll be a doormat. I get that a lot at corporates when I talk about such things. I don't go into as much detail there oftentimes. But even the concept of humility, sometimes people, well, how am I going to survive here at such and such corporation? But it's inherent when one recognizes one's right to serve Krishna exclusively. And when one makes a decision that this is all I want, then one's auspicious life begins. And all good things unfold from that. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayantamam yejana pariyupasite tesham nityavdyuktanam yogikshemam vahamyaham. he said, if this is your preoccupation, that you only want to serve me, then I'll just take care of you. How's that sound? In fact, Vahamya, at the end of the verse, is a very specific statement where he says, I'll personally take care of you. And those who find that within themselves and then make that the point of their life, that this is what I want, find that it's true, that this is real opulence in life. And on the other side, when I want something, it's not so easy to, you can't enjoy it peacefully. You may ask for anything, any little thing, and then you own it. In fact, in the Gita, Krishna says, Jayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangasteshu Jayate. That as soon as you look at the world as a place for me to control, like Hiranyakashipu, you just try, I'll take the whole thing. In fact, I'll get back to what I was saying, but there's a short piece in the 12th canto called the Bhumi Gita, where Bhumi, Earth personified, is speaking about her observations of the world. And she says, it's laughable. These kings come in and they say, this is my land here, and they'll spill blood on the surface. She says, so much blood has been spilled on the surface, on my surface, because of people fighting over, where's the line? That's my line, that's yours. And she says, okay, they get all the earth, and then they say, now the water too, I want that. In fact, you can measure, this is my airspace. Stay out of my airspace. She said, they're all fighting over it. She said, it's from geological time. They're only here for 5 seconds. What are you fighting about? Nothing belongs to you. So in the Gita, Krishna gives this practical point. Jayato Vishayam Pumsam. It comes from the same word, dhi, which like samadhi, to intensely meditate on something. When you've absorbed your mind in it. And so he says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsam Sangasteshu Pajayate. When you look at anything in the world, and as soon as you catch on it and you say, that's mine, I'm keeping that for me. I'm going to enjoy it, I'm going to control it, mine, 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 mine. That Krishna says, okay, now you own it. And now it's a problem for you. It becomes a sangha. Sangha means it becomes part of you. And you're just an ordinary person coming into the world, hands empty. You go out with the hands empty. In fact, I don't know if I said it the other night, but Alexander the Great, it's probably an apocryphal story, but it works, because he said it as, well, for his funeral, he wanted in the coffin a way for his hands to be outside the coffin, like this, empty. I'm going to take off my ring. Empty like that. And then he said, I want the best of doctors to be the pallbearers, to carry my coffin. Why? Because the best of doctors tried to save him. And they're like, now you carry the coffin because he couldn't save me. And he said, from my treasure, I want gold spread on the pathway all the way to where I'm laid to rest. Hands out. So, point is, I come into the world, I'm a soul, I have nothing to do with this world, and now I'm looking at it, Jayato, I'm meditating, and I contemplate it, and I say, okay, I can enjoy that. And now, okay, it sticks to you, it's all yours, you can keep it. And then there's this impulse then, somebody understands a philosophy, this philosophical concept, and they says, okay, I'll give up the world. You can't do that either. Because we're souls, we're part of Krishna, we want joy. In fact, it was Cyndi Lauper. Can you go that far back? Anybody? It said, Jivas just want to have fun. They really, really do. That's all they really want. Jivas just want to have fun. And they don't want the burden of this material world, but it's a conundrum because you got, on one hand, you try to enjoy it, and you got your Hiranyakashipu complex, and it just becomes a burden. And like, what happened to that guy? He totally blew it. He put all in, and he couldn't get anything out. And on the other side, you have the saintly Prahlad. And saintly means, I want to serve God. In the middle, if you try to give it up, you won't be able to stay there. Hare Kṛṣṇa param padam tata. I quoted it the first verse. It means you can try hard to give up everything or get some kind of liberation where I won't touch it, but you'll fall back down again. You'll always come back down. So Prahlad Maharaj shows us the standard. If you come to the standard of Prahlad Maharaj, that service for service, I only want to serve God, I don't want anything in return, you become honored throughout the three worlds. And you'll notice it. Well, when the devotees first went to India, Prabhupada was there, and he invited devotees to come over because he wanted to show what happened. He went alone to America, and then he comes back with all these Americans. And in India at the time, people were looking to America and go like, how are we going to catch up to these guys? We want what they have. And then Prabhupada plays this trick on him where he comes to America, he gets all these Westerners, and he comes back in a big airplane full of Westerners. Here you go. They want what you are supposed to want, which is pure love for God. And in Surat, devotees went there and they were having kirtan, and people came out of their houses, and they were grabbing the dust after the devotees walked there. So much so there were holes in the road. And the devotees were surprised and taken aback, and they said, asked Prabhupada later, why were they doing that? And he said, because you follow the four regulative principles and you chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, and anywhere you go in the world, you'll be honored because of that. And the greatest desire one can have is what Prahlad Maharaj showed us. That, oh my Lord, if I have any desire within my heart, let it be no material desire, only desire to serve you. And so we have the stark examples. Hiranyakashipu, boo. And then you have Prahlad Maharaj, he's worshipable to us. In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to, when he'd sit with Gadadhar Pandit to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, he'd want to hear that story over and over again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told all his disciples, read Prahlad 108 times. Hear that story over and over and over and over again. And he's famous, Prahlad Maharaj. He's famous all over the world because of that. And let's just see if there's any questions to augment the conversation.
Or reflections, okay?
Yeah.
I was thinking also because it's Mother's Day, and just thinking about this archetype of service for the sake of service, and that oftentimes mothers represent that. But then also Prahlad Maharaj being within the womb of his mother, and she created a facility for him to hear from Narada Muni. So I was appreciating that. That was my meditation today, just around this, especially that service for service sake.
That's such a perfect example. It's one Prabhupada used to give about the closest thing you can find in this world to this selfless love is the love of a mother for a child who is there painstakingly taking care of the child out of spontaneous love. Doesn't seem like drudgery, although I hope not to over-romanticize this. Times when parents have to wake up or they didn't get the text back from their kid. But it's a fact. If you notice a mother and how she takes care of her child, then there's that semblance of that pure spirit that's honored all over the world, the love of a mother. Thank you. Yes.
To build off of that reflection, it's also, I think, when you look at the fact that he then liberated Hiranyakashipu, here's somebody who's so, the epitome of, evil, and he's gonna, harm his greatest, one of his greatest devotees, and he still loves him. So that undying, just the unconditional love that he has for all of us, because he's in all of us, I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And also, you'll find in the story, when Sringadev is bifurcating, eviscerating. Find the right word.
Decimating.
Right word. Decimating. Eviscerate. That means actually literally pull out your entrails. That works. He tore out his heart. And you'll find in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur how the Lord is commenting like, why did you let so many material desires stay in this heart? And I had thought earlier, and I didn't bring it up because I kept rolling along, but in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the story of cleansing the Gundicha temple, which those of you who've been to Puri, anybody Puri? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Jagannath Puri, there's so much to say, but what we do in Ratha Yatra is we're pulling the Lord back to Vrindavan. So it's Vrindavan is represented there in Puri in the Gundicha Mandir. So there's a story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that before Ratha Yatra, Lord Chaitanya goes with his devotees, and they say, we want to clean the temple. And the temple commander there says, you shouldn't clean the temple. Well, no, we'll clean it. And he said, no, we want to clean it. Please supply us with it, whatever we need. And so they brought hundreds and hundreds of pots to bring water and all the cleaning instruments. And so the devotees were cleansing the temple, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed more than anyone. In fact, sometimes he was cleaning with his tears. His tears were coming so profusely, and he was using his own cloth, and he was collecting more of the dust and straw and whatever other elements were there than anybody. Kaivalya Ballabha, he's a famous violinist. And I don't know how he got here. Okay, so this is a metaphor for cleansing one's heart. It's an event, but it's also used as a metaphor by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Prabhupada quotes his Guru Maharaj extensively in this case, and he said, this is how we have to cleanse our hearts. And he said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleaned the temple 3 times. You know, when you start cleaning a room and you think, I should be done in a few minutes, and then you realize it's a lot worse than I thought. Besides, I think I need new drapes, and I got to paint this place and stuff like that. I notice, especially when a highly elevated person comes to stay at your house, you start, oh my God, why didn't I think of that before? Well, this place is pristine. And so 1, 2, 3, and then he cleaned outside so nothing else would come back in. So in the metaphor, and it's that our heart is an altar. And in order for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to sit down there, we have to be meticulous in cleansing it. And then Prabhupada says, so then when you've cleansed your heart sufficiently, so you can invite the Supreme Personality of Godhead to sit down as a deity, you feel that you've done your very best. In fact, Prabhupada said in the temple and worshiping the deity, he said everything should be first class. And then he says, better than first class. So when you've got your heart like that, you've done the best you can to cleanse it. So then you can invite the Supreme Personality of Godhead to sit down there. And then he said, then you can hold a festival. And you can invite everybody and serve prasadam. And that's real life. That's what Prahlad Maharaj showed us, that if you want your life to be a festival, you cleanse your heart over and over and over again, meticulously. Make that your main business. And then you can invite the Lord to sit down there legitimately, that I did my best to make this a pristine place for you. And when the Lord's there in your heart, He's always in our heart. But the point is, when I've deliberately invited Him to come there as the honored guest so I can serve Him, then all our activities become auspicious. I think that's my mantra today. I keep saying it. So, what else? One more?
I appreciated your barking up the wrong tree analogy and how you witnessed it happen in real life.
Yeah.
And So for those of us when we're barking up the wrong tree and maybe we're more on the Hiranyakashipu side of things, and maybe the Prahlad saintly counterpart seems really difficult to achieve or to be able to embody and live in that way. What guidance could you give to us?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I have a few practical tips. One is know what you want. And this is called Sambandha Gyan. There's 3 stages: Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha means know what you want. And Abhideya means when you know what you want exactly, and it's well reasoned, then you can work hard for it and you'll never feel fatigued. Our fatigue comes from I'm working hard, but I'm not exactly sure what I want. I do this exercise sometimes at corporates when I ask everyone to close their eyes. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Close your eyes and relax, but keep an alert mind. And just breathe. And you come to a beautiful meadow, and there's one single tree in the middle of the meadow that's perfectly formed, and it's a well-established tree. You can tell by the thickness of the trunk. It's a venerable tree. And attracted to the shelter of that tree, you go and sit down underneath. You feel the carpet of grass under you. You're comfortable. And then you remember that the prophecy said when you come into this field, you'd see this tree. And it's not an ordinary tree. It's a tree that will fulfill any desire that you have. So now that you're there under the tree, just take a moment to look inwardly and identify, what exactly do you want? What is your desire? The one desire that you'll give everything for. And as you're searching for that, notice any other mixture of desires, thoughts that are in your mind, in your heart. Be wholly introspective right now and notice what's inside you. And as you're searching, I'll just mention that Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajat yante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sada tat bhava bhavita. That all the things that we want come together like a wave, a tidal wave, at the time we leave this body. And they carry us to our next destination. So the sum total of our desires and the main desire that we have in our life, the main thrust of our life, represented by that desire, or pushed by that desire, that's our destination. So what do you want exactly, more than anything else? And then bring your attention back to your breath. And then open your eyes. And we're able to find a particular clear desire that was the main thing that you wanted. Did anybody have to sift through anything? Well, whether you've completely identified it or not, this is one of the this is the driving force of our life, what we want. And the universe is responding to us. And so, one of the practices of Sambandha Gyan is to become fully educated by reading Bhagavad Gita about how the world works and what our relationship with Krishna is. And one of the points Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita, at the end of the 8th chapter, by the way, which is entitled Attaining the Supreme, he says, Vedeshu yagneshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishno eti tat sarva vidam vaditva yogi paramstam paiti charyam. There's all these ways in which one can try to attain something in this world by becoming a great scholar, Vedeshu yagneshu, by performing austerities and sacrifices, by giving in charity and so forth. And he said, you'll attain all of these by devotional service, by giving one-pointed attention to my service. And this is an example of Sambandha Gyan, of understanding that we have an exclusive, unique relationship with Krishna. And if that becomes the main point of our life, then everything else will conform accordingly in our lives. And when we're not sure, we could cultivate more Sambandha Gyan. And also an exercise I've done is take time to, I recommend getting a legal pad and a pen and a do not disturb sign. Those three things. And a comfortable chair. And put up the do not disturb sign, one on your door, so everyone knows you're doing some deep work. Put one maybe on your ear, for any brain waves that are going through, say, not right now. And take time to write down your priorities. What exactly do you want? What's most important to you? And it can be startling, because you might start thinking, I don't know what I want exactly. And what are my priorities? And you may write them down and order them and reorder them. And that's a good thing to do, because you have to decide what you want in order to go for it. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And where attention goes,
Energy flows.
So this is one of the key points, is get really clear. And if you have what's called Ekeha Kurunandana, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmikam Budhir, Ekeha Kurunandana. Have this one-pointed goal that's for Krishna. And if you have that, of course, it doesn't mean you become a boring person, nor do you become antisocial or hard to be around, not fanatical. It just means you have a root that's so solid. In fact, you become more appreciative of everything when you have this one clear goal, that everything comes from Krishna and all my services for him, because everything's part of Krishna. People become more sacred to you, and you appreciate them more. As the Sri Upanishad says, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanataha tatra ko mohoka shoka ekabdam. That when you have this mode of one-pointed attention on Krishna, then everyone becomes a sacred person to you, because they're all part of Krishna. Just like you love all the members of your family, because you have to identify that this is my family unit, and one who's a servant of Krishna feels like that. So it's very practical to know what you want. It sounds simplistic, but if you do a little survey, Burlington, do they have a sports team here? Just Vermont.
Catamounts. We have
Vermont doesn't have
The Lake
professional
Monsters.
We have
Bicycles.
those lake monsters, a little
Okay,
like
Lake
amateur
Monsters.
baseball.
Go to a Lake Monsters game and take a clipboard with you. And when people are coming out, say, what do you want? What's the main thing you want in your life? People may be confused, distracted, they won't have a ready answer. Or better yet, ring people's doorbell at 1 in the morning. And come out and say, what's your main goal in life? Get out of there. My main goal is to get you arrested right now. And then the next question to ask is, when you decide what you want, will it disappoint you? That's derived from the story of Brahma just mentioning. He felt obligated, he was obligated according to his duty in the universe to give him whatever Hiranyakashipu said. yeah, but, I just want to mention, you're not going to be happy doing this. And so, based on the standard Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita, ask yourself, will this disappoint me if I go after this? And if the answer is yes, then reorder your priorities. Because the main thing, the sages at Naimisharanya, the best thinkers in the world, came together for a seminar, 1,000-year seminar. And their topic was, how can you benefit all living entities singularly in the best possible way? And they came up with a mantra, Savai Pumsam Parodharmo Yato Bhaktira Hoksaje Ahitu Kiya Pratiyata.
Yeah, superseded.
Learn one-pointed devotion, unmotivated. You don't want anything in return. It's Prahlad Maharaj. He's the gold standard. I don't want anything. I just want to be your servant. Unmotivated and uninterrupted. It doesn't mean you do it occasionally or sporadically. It means that you're able to stay absorbed in that conception 24 hours a day. Like unmitigated gratitude coming from your heart for Krishna, for your life. The fact that you're alive and He's sustaining you at every second. So know what you want, number one. Number two, ask yourself, will it disappoint you? And if it will disappoint you, then go back to number one. And try again. And if you read Bhagavad Gita regularly, then you develop this kind of intelligence that Krishna describes. Vyavasayatmika bhudhira ekeha kurunandana. You're absolutely sure of the one thing you want. And if you have that, and you only want to serve Krishna, then your life becomes perfect, like Prahlad Maharaj's. And that's why he's in the Bhagavatam, to show us that this is the goal of life. And any other thing that you throw in there on top of it, it's just going to disturb you, and you're not going to like it. So it's good to know ahead of time, right?
Yes.
And then become wise. So maybe we end with a little kirtan. Lord Nrsimhadev appears in many other pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes people think, oh, Lord Nrsimhadev is a Vaikuntha deity. Another point about Lord Nrsimhadev is that in the Bhagavatamrita, which by Rupa Goswami describes a lot of the details of the incarnations of the Lord. He says, three manifestations of Krishna that have full opulence are Krishna, Nrsimhadev, and Bhagavan. Those three. And you find in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Lord Nrsimhadev appears. In fact, once when at Srivas Pandit's house, Srivas was reciting the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra. Anybody here know the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra? Hasn't got to Vermont. It's 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. And people recite it every day practically in South India. And so Srivas was reciting that and came to the name of Lord Nrsimhadev. And Lord Chaitanya assumed the mood of Lord Nrsimhadev. And he picked up his stick and he ran out into the street wanting to chase after people who were sinful. And Srivas Pandit ran after him and said, no, stop. Wrong age. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's a temple of Lord Nrsimhadev in Mayapur called the Sringapali. It's a really beautiful, very simple deity of Lord Nrsimhadev that you can have darshan of any time because there's no curtain that closes. You can always look through and see him in there. People come from everywhere to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. So I just thought it'd be good to mention one of the prayers from the Bhagavatam that you can recite and learn. And it goes like this. Om, maybe a little higher. Om Namo Bhagavate Shringhaya Namaste Jase Abhirahimava Vajrananga Vajradamsha Karmasayam Grandaya Grandaya Namo Grasam Grasam Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Amani Bhuvishta Om Shroud. And the meaning of this is that, oh my Lord is all powerful and ferocious, with nails and teeth just like thunderbolts. Please demolish the demon-like desires in my heart for material enjoyment in this material world. So it's one of the ways in which we can pray to Lord Nrsimhadev is to take out those last vestiges of desire for material enjoyment. Now it's time for the most cherished of all, and we'll sing the song that's most dear to all devotees throughout ISKCON. Ready? Shari Dasi Cha Cha. You know this? Okay, this song. John, Renee, anybody else? This song is in Bengali, but here's what it means. Devotees sing this song before they honor prasadam. We never say eat prasadam, we say honor it because spiritual food, so it's been offered to Krishna, so it's spiritual. So in this song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that the senses are very hard to control, but especially the tongue. So it's the most voracious. He said, Krishna, you're so kind. You've given us prasad, and when we eat prasad, then our tongue naturally becomes satisfied and controlled because it's spiritual food. It becomes spiritualized. And therefore he's giving this prayer of gratitude, saying, Krishna, thank you very much for giving us a way to nourish ourselves, to be happy, healthy, and also to make spiritual advancement just by honoring prasadam. So it's a very joyful song, and devotees love singing the song. And if there's nobody around for miles in a devotee community, and you sing this song, then everyone will come. Because it means prasad. It's almost like Pavlov's experiment. Where's the prasad? They come with plates and wagons, Tupperware, and everything.
Cut open milk jugs.
And cut open milk jugs by singing this song. So if you're ever lonely and you want some friends, just step out the door and sing this song.
You gotta have prasad, otherwise they won't show up.
Shah had a little problem in our temple in Silicon Valley. Yeah, all our kids are growing up. I mean, we have hundreds of kids. And so they're so good. They grew up, many of them finishing college now, and there's this tight-knit community, so young people are very Krishna conscious and they have great capability. So I asked some of them recently to start a PR firm to help make ISV more popular, and a few other things, and they have the wherewithal to do that. Oh, it's here?
Those are the videos.
Oh, okay. So
8 million views.
So they did it, and then they said, I think it's going okay. And I said, what's going on? And at that point, that was after like 5 days, they said, yeah, we got 1.5 million views for one of them. And now it's up to 3 million.
There's 3 videos over 1 million.
3 videos over 1 million, okay. And so what was the result of that? They showed our prasadam line, where you take the plate, you get in line, and there's multiple servers, and it goes quickly, so they hand it down and said, come to Silicon Valley. So the next day we're all there at the Sunday program.
Oh no.
Who are all these people? And the board had to meet together and go like, what are we going to do now? And so, yeah, prasadam's popular. And so it's our secret weapon. He said we're a kitchen religion. Thank you very much, everybody. I can't express deeply enough how much Nirkula and she had to leave early because we have a famous Swami coming to stay at our house, and she went to get the house ready. And it's always, nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
right? So she was telling me, she was lamenting that she'd missed this program tonight because she got so attached to all of you and the mood here in the Sangha, and as did I. And it was just a magical weekend for me, completely magical. We've seen things and heard things that we've never experienced before. And it's just absolutely unique. Somehow you crossed a diamond with a pearl. And you've got something that's so special. So please, carry on. The world's constantly changing. It's called bhava. But you've got the one thing that is a constant, and the constant currency is what Prahlad Maharaj taught, which is selfless service to one another and to Krishna. If you just keep those two things always going, then you rise above all the difficulties of this material world. And John and Rini, what a unique experience. I could see that this is...
putting up with us or us?
I was standing in the freezing cold parking lot the other day and I saw him coming from a distance. And we already talked a few times, so I started to get to know you a little bit more, but he walked right up to me and he just went, then smiled and turned around and walked away. And I thought, John knows how to work this world. And really, thank you very much for showing how to be joyful, and for both of you raising a daughter who's become a luminary and making this environment. You've served the world in an amazing way. And thanks to all of you for being a Sangha and taking care of one another. And I hope to see you all soon. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Gauranitai, if you so desire, please bless the Bhakti House Sangha here in Burlington, that the devotees may always live in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, service for service, and help one another to experience the joy of sincerity in their service to Krishna, and also to spread it to everyone in Burlington, then everyone in Vermont, then may it spill over to New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Eastern Seaboard, Maine, then across the ocean, and may it hit as a tidal wave when it hits Europe, and may all people become peaceful, happy, and blissful because of your Sangha right here. Thank you for considering our request. John, you and me. Om. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with these prayers in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Sound a loud Hari Bol to appreciate His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu.